quick video on how I use the spreadsheet. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. There we go. So it's basically broken into three different areas. The first area is where the data is captured, um, the date, the trade. Anytime you see these orange fields, those are usually input fields, and there's a lot of them you're going to find are blank because I either didn't collect the data for you or I was using it for some other purpose. So I left the headers in, but you can go ahead and use those for whatever you want. Uh, Update successful just means that the logic worked when I ran the code. Worksheet names you don't have to worry about. Order time is if I'm doing one of the ones from Live Traders, sometimes they'll put the order in at say 9:40, but it won't actually enter the trade until 9:45. So this is just that particular value. You're the trader. This is a thing I used for TOS in order to put the entry stop and some stuff onto the screen for me. You can ignore that. And the same with the previous trading day. I used that in order to get the data for the EMA stuff. So not much there. But when you start getting in this green area, this is where you'll be able to start looking at the different data that you might find useful to you, or I should say metrics that you find useful to you. 29, row 29 is the average of whatever field it is, and if you filter on one, then those numbers will all change based upon the filter. So now 100% of these trades are long. For example, when I go ahead and select them all, 54.2% of the trades are long. Same thing, like if let's do that one more time. We'll go long, and now the entry average for longs was 151.98, where before it was 130. So that's basically what this average column does. I don't use it for everything because there's certain instances where it doesn't work out, and we'll talk about that in a moment. This is your entry and stop time, the risk in dollars. This is a programmatic entry that I was using to see if I could do it with VBA instead of with a different path that I chose. Year, month, week, day, the actual R numbers in dollars, which isn't particularly helpful. This R pattern trunk is a system I used and use to look at the pattern for the trade. So if you see a 1 minus 1, it means it went to 1 and then ended up stopping out. If you see a 2, it means it got to 2. I don't do a 2 minus 1. If it got to 2, I just call that a good trade. 1 minus 1. If you see a minus 1, that means that it never got to 1R. So it stopped out without even getting to 1R. These are the different possible patterns that can show up. This is the number of times that they occurred. The reason why this can be kind of handy is when you're going through the analysis, you can go ahead and say, well, show me everything that didn't work. And now you can look down and see whether or not there's some metric that would indicate that those tend to fail more often. So that's what I mostly use that one for. A lot of these have the value in them, or what they are as a comment. Our percent rounded down, ATR to entry, some other stuff. Minutes to entry is the time from the beginning of the day to when it happened. Entry to full stop minutes is how long it took this trade to get to a full stop. Highest R before it got to the full stop. Lowest R before it ended up getting the stop, and you can get some numbers on here, especially if they went all the way to the end of the day. It means it won't be minus 1. You've got your minutes to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. Don't read too much into the colors. This is me just kind of experimenting with stuff. I didn't build this to really share too much with people. Don't get rid of this column. It says right there, don't delete it. This is used for some of the filtering stuff. So when you select, a value here, this is how I can tell which rows are actually being shown and not shown. So I use this for calculation. Don't get rid of that. This is the end of day. So the last minute, this is what it closed at. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, unless it stopped out first, and so that's why you see -1 on some. But if it made it to the end of the day, this is what it closed at. Um, this is your 2-minute high. Everything to notice is like for these minutes too. If it didn't make it, then they're blank. So you got to be a little careful using the metrics on these because it only includes the ones that actually got there. I don't have any value for ones that didn't. So keep that in mind. Same thing with the high ones. So this particular one here stopped out within 15 minutes, and so there's no 20-minute high. And then the lows. This is another column that you can't delete. Special column used. Do not delete. These are your inside and outside previous days gaps. Excuse me. Be a little cautious with these because if you did 3 trades in the same day, then the SPY opening gap is going to have three values for it. They're all the same. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at the Qs in the SPY. This opening gap is for the particular trade. So this one, the opening gap the opening was outside of the previous trade day. This one was the entry for the trade was outside the previous day trade, and then this is the gap percent. Minus is obviously it's gone down. 1.8 means it's gone up. How far am I into the recording? I only want to keep it for 10 minutes. Oh, 6 minutes. Okay, good. We're good. Whether it's a live trader member, and these are all no because that's for Onmal and Scott and stuff. So when I'm trying to do some Scott, you are Scott, Onmal stuff on those guys, sometimes I'll go ahead and filter out on that stuff just to see how they're doing. The entry bar high and low is the dollar amount. This is what the entry bar high and low was. Min and max. I like to use min and max because I'm using the R values here. So even a short will have the max will actually be the max R, not the dollar value, not the value. If that makes sense. I think it does, but send me an email if it doesn't. These are going to be the same for you for the most part because I have this twice. One of them is done. What I do with some of the trades is I'll use the tick data and I'll actually go look and see what the high and low was after the actual entry during that minute, because sometimes one will come up from say 0.5 R and then shoot up and enter, but then never go back down to 0.5 R in that particular minute. Obviously, it depends upon what time it was in the minute. And that's the other thing about some of these is it's based upon the time that the trade entered. So I don't know whether or not it entered 45 seconds into the minute or 10 seconds into the minute. So this is the second minute high, and so I don't know if that means that the previous trade has been going on for 65 seconds or 110 seconds. So keep that in mind too when you're looking through the data. These are the different. I did the first 10 bars, and there's some interesting things about these because what you can do is filter on them and look to see whether or not your trades tend to always, the good trades tend to have, say, a high second bar max R, or the ones that fail tend to have a low min R, for example. And so that's basically what I use that for. And then there's some more data here at the end because I was adding some stuff in. This is the percent that you needed to get to of the ATR to get to R1. So this one had to go 34% of the ATR. This one had to go 107% of the ATR to get to R1 according to the trade. This is the R value for the trade for the day. And then what you're going to see up here is, let me see if I can find. This is the average of the values in this column for every one all or nothing that was greater than 0 and less than 0. So for the one all or nothings in this column that ended up for one all or nothing at a value greater than 0, the average is 33%. For the ones that did not, the average is 36%. So what you're looking for here is, are there any that have a big divergence in them? This one's interesting, for example, that the ones below 0 that ended up below 0 are minus 0.14, but the ones that didn't are 0.3. So then you could start looking at, for example, second bar close.